Are strong enough.
Yeah, I need to do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow.
She's my campaign manager.
She's already started.
Very
good. How are you?
My son home for most of it.
Good. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I had my son home for a lot of the food, and he went off to, I think in January 20. I took him to the airport at 4 o'clock, and I went back to Philadelphia International that night to pick up the daughter coming in from California. And they were coming and going. But it was good. Good to have him. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Chris?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Good to see you.
We could do that. I can teach people how to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
To save money.
Didn't see anybody at Christmas party here. The kids all had COVID.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, Fred didn't get that at my sister's house. Jack can't go there. Wait took them down and tested them because of COVID. Right. I don't think
Under should be here shortly after, right? Just give them the last thing.
Yeah, Westchester. My district supervisor called snow days. I think it's more. I think it was a COVID deal, not a.
Yeah. Smart. That, the idea is there's more the issue in the city.
Do I need to sign this?
Not yet.
How about my own cheat sheet?
Well, this one here I've got for,
Oh, okay. Very good.
More the issue is the less who are in our own services. And so that's part of why
oversight.
right away it's
When they called me for doing this is the old testament. This I got this from my dad. Okay. You can bring this up.
Everyone, we're just waiting for Judge Bender to arrive. I believe he's on his way.
I just got a text you here. Just pull it up. We should be.
Oh, here, Doc.
There you go.
Brett working on this one.
He just texted me, said he's setting up for you in 5 minutes, and that was 2 minutes ago.
When he gets here, can you ask him why he lied to me?
He told me he couldn't
All right, thank you.
Well, he said he couldn't make it for you, but he made it for us. Maybe he got negative results for him.
Just take it for garbage.
I'm sorry, I'll let myself.
He said he made it for the important people. You know, that.
I guess she worked.
Oh, sorry.
Change my name. But it is going to let you know just for future.
Okay, sorry.
Believe me, I'm in cold work.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors organizational meeting of January the 3rd, 2022. So could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please note that because Chester County is currently an area of high transmission for COVID, we are requiring that all attendees tonight wear a mask while seated or moving around. Also, please be aware that this meeting is being streamed on the Township YouTube channel and that the meeting may be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. And to start the meeting, we have a wonderful thing to do, which is to swear in some of our newly elected folks here, and I'm going to look to Chris to guide us through the sequence of events, and we're going to start with our newly elected Board of Supervisors, Mr. Hellman and Ms. Smith.
So there are two judges here to administer the oaths of office for the newly elected Board of Supervisors. So the first one on the agenda this evening is Mr. Hellman.
Stina. Here's your copy. I'll see my name in blue. Okay, if you want to place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. We'll get this down. Pass the first test. All right, you want to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, John Hellman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge Binder.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is Tina Marie Smith.
You okay there, Robert?
But you can keep it. And if you want to place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I, T. Marie Smith,
I, Tina Marie Smith,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge Scott.
Thank you.
So we have one more addition to
I signed mine.
the list of oaths. Steve Vitale, the newly elected constable, who I believe will be sworn in by Judge Bender. Mr. Vitale, do you need a Bible?
Yeah, we need a Bible, yes, please. Yeah, it don't matter.
All right. You want to place your left hand on? Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Stephen A. Vitale,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of West Goshen
and the
Township,
ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
And I know that we have that Judge Bender and Gosh do need to get to other meetings this evening, but we have two more auditors to swear in. If it pleases the board, I can administer those as a notary public in the interest of time.
So ask the judge, do you have 5 more minutes to share? That'll be fine, let's do that. All right, thank you.
So the next is newly elected member of the Board of Auditors, Cynthia Sheik. I can hold it for you.
Please want to place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. There you go. And it's I, Cynthia Sheik,
I, Cynthia Sheik,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and the ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and I will do so with fidelity.
and I will do so with fidelity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We have one more individual to be sworn in, which is newly elected auditor Nate Wallman.
You're going to place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. And you're going to repeat after me. I, and say your name, Nate Wallman, do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
That I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the laws and ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and the laws and ordinances of West Goshen Township,
and I will do so with fidelity.
and I will do so with fidelity.
Very good. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much to both our judges tonight, Judge Binder and Judge Gosh. We appreciate you taking the time to come by, and we wish you well in the rest of your evening, because I know you're running around. And congratulations to all the newly sworn in supervisors, auditors, and constables. Well done. As I believe Chris said, the elected tax collector, Angela Emmerich, is not available to be here tonight. She has COVID at the moment, so she'll be sworn in separately by Chris.
I will make arrangements for that.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point we're on to our regular order of business, I believe, in terms of the organization meeting, and next on the agenda is our Board of Supervisors organization, which is agenda item number 4. At this point, as chair, I hand it over to our vice chair, Ms. Ashley Garnier. She's actually not able to attend tonight because she also has been exposed and had COVID, so she's attending remotely. Ashley, I hope you can hear me okay. Are you there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Let me just see if I can turn you up a little bit. Okay, we can hear you. So, Ashley, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you as our vice chair to run the process of selecting nominations to be chair of the Board of Supervisors for 2022.
All right. So, as vice chair of the board, I'd like to open nominations for the chair of the board this year. And I would like to nominate Sean Walsh to continue his role as chair on the board this year.
And I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you both very much. I certainly appreciate your support. Is there any comment from the rest of the board?
I support that totally. Jen's done a very good job, and I agree totally.
Thank you. Ashley, I'll leave it with you to proceed from here.
All right. So, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. I vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I will abstain from voting for myself. Thank you, everyone. Thank Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it. I know it's difficult to run a process remotely, but thank you. And again, thanks to all the board for your support in me, and I look forward to working with you closely in 2022 as your chair. So at this point, the second item on agenda number 4 is for me to seek nominations for the vice chair. Is a motion for nomination of a vice chair for many of the board?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for Ashley Gagnon to be a vice chair.
Thank you, John. Is there a second for that motion?
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any board comments or questions about the motion? Are there any public comments or questions about the motion? Very good. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is the proposed township staff and staff appointments for 2022. And looking for a motion and a vote on the following appointments once I've read them out. So first of all, I'd like to announce that Chris Bayshaw has been offered and accepted the position of Township Manager. So congratulations, Chris. We certainly appreciate you being here and being able to step in onto the shoes as Casey has moved on. So the first position that we're announcing tonight is Township Manager and Secretary Christopher Bayshaw. Finance Director and Treasurer is Christine Rippey. Chief of Police is Chief Michael Carroll. Director of Public Works, David Woodward. Township Engineer, Richard Craig. Assistant Finance Director and HR Director, Jennifer Latzer. Zoning Officer, William Webb. Wastewater Superintendent, Michael Martha. Street Superintendent, Mark Bertolami. Park Superintendent, Doreen McClune. Building Code Official, John Beswick. Deputy Zoning Officer, Richard Craig. Deputy Zoning Officer, John Beswick. Deputy Tax Collector, Kimberly Green. Fire Marshal and Emergency Management Coordinator, Andrea Testa. Assistant Fire Marshal and Building Code Official, Michael McCarthy. And Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator, Lisa Cavada. Would a member of the board like to make a motion for these proposed appointments for 2022?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tina.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Have a motion and a second. Are there any board questions or comments about these positions or appointments? Are there any public comments or questions about the township appointment? Very good. We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6. This is the appointment of our professional services folks for 2022. I have a question for the board. Do you want to pass them all in one motion, or do you want to address them separately?
Let's see, all one motion. I agree.
Very good. So the proposed township solicitor is Buckley, Bryan, McGuire, and Morris. The consulting engineer is Carroll Engineering Corporation. And our outside auditor is Barbicane, Thornton and Company. Is there a motion for approval of these professional service providers?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any board comments or questions about the providers? Any public comments or questions? Very good. Ready to take a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is an announcement of the proposed appointments for the specific terms in office to various boards and commissions in West Goshen. And after I've read them out, I'd like to ask for a motion and vote on the appointments. I would like to indicate there are a couple of additional roles that I will mention as I go through this list, so please be aware there's a couple of additions to the list as well. So for the Planning Commission, the proposed appointments are of Alessandra O'Reilly Belwar for a 4-year term as a member, Terry Wildrick, 4-year term as a member, Dr. Doug White for a 4-year term as a member, John Mattia for a 4-year term as a member, and our liaison will be John Hellman from the board. For Parks and Recreation, Nancy Pine for a 5-year term as a member, and Ashley Garnier as a board liaison. For the Zoning Hearing Board, Nick DePrinzio for a 3-year term as an alternative member. For the Sewer Authority Board, Walt Wills to a 5-year term as a member, and I will be the board liaison to the Sewer Authority. For the Vacancy Board, Robin Stunterbeck, 1-year term, Sean Walsh, 1-year term, Ashley Garnier, 1-year term, John Hellman, a 1-year term, and Tina Marie Smith, 1-year term, and Kurt Halterwanger as a 1-year term. Pension Committee, Angelo Savaloni for a 1-year term, David Brune for a 1-year term, Walker Tompkins, 1-year term, Robert Holland, a 1-year term, Hugh Pennell for a 1-year term, and I will serve as the board liaison to the Pension Committee. Historical Commission, Dr. Doug White for a 3-year term as a member, and Robin Stunterbeck as the board liaison. Sustainability Advisory Committee, Natalie Caruso to a 2-year term as a member, Dorothy Burden for a 2-year term as a member, and Ashley Garnier and Tina Marie Smith will be board liaisons to the Sustainability Advisory Committee. For administration, Tina Marie Smith and Robin Stunderbeck will be board liaisons, and for the police department, John Hellman and Tina Marie Smith will be the board liaisons. And for public works, John Hellman and Sean Walsh will be the board liaisons. There is a vacancy which we're going to address separately, so on the Sewer Authority, but for now, is there a motion from a board member to approve the appointments and liaisons that I've just read out?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Robin. Is there any board questions or comments on the appointments? Are there any public comments or questions on the appointments? Very good. We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. It's quite a list there. So, under this agenda item, I'd also like to cover a couple of other items. One is the fact that we have a vacancy on our Sewer Authority Board, and we have received notice of interest from two individuals, Carter Membrino and Dr. Doug White, have both expressed an interest in serving on the Sewer Authority Board as a member. I believe the board has received the resumes, etc., of the interested parties.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask, because I see both of them are here this evening, would either of you like to make a short statement as to your interest in the authority and why you're interested in serving on that board? No? Absolutely, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug White, West Goshen Township. I did apply to be on the Sewer Authority. Been attending meetings since approximately late 2015, 2016. Have an engineering background and a bit of a business background. Seen a lot of changes in the township. Grew up here and just had an interest in helping and guide the process. I've been intimately involved with the meetings. I don't miss a meeting, hardly ever. I'd like to just continue that service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Carter?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of the Board of Supervisors, and Dr. White, too, for your interest in the position. I'm Carter Membrino. I am a 12-year resident of the township. So, like Dr. White, I also have an engineering background. I'm currently a licensed professional engineer in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. My work career currently has me working in the energy monitoring and controls and industrial systems. I have a good background in wastewater treatment. I have spent a lot of time developing energy and sustainability projects at wastewater treatment plants and pump stations. I have a good deal of interest in creating infrastructure that's sustainable, energy efficient, resilient. So, yeah, I think I serve well in the position, and I enjoy your consideration. So, thank you.
Thank you, Carter. We appreciate it. We'd like to thank both of you. You know, the township's success depends on people being willing to volunteer and help in our boards and our commissions and committees, and we certainly are glad that you're interested in serving. So thank you to both of you. So are there any board questions or comments or discussion for the, that we would have, or any questions for the candidates at this point?
The resumes are very thorough and good. Thank you both.
Are you entertaining motions at this time?
Well, if there's no questions for the candidates, yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that Corder Membrino be appointed to the sewer authority.
Thank you, John. Is there a second to the motion?
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Tina.
I'm going to third it.
We have a motion made by John and a second by Tina, and support from Robin. Ashley, do you have any comments? I'm not sure if you're able to hear the candidates' statements.
I would think both would be excellent additions to the sewer authority, but I will also support the recommendation for Carter Membrino.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I could just make one comment, I think this is a great problem to have two excellent folks stepping up there willing to serve. It truly is an asset we have here in our township. We have such great people willing to do that. I don't know what to tell you. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly echo what the other board members have said. I know both these individuals personally, and they are both outstanding folks who can help our township. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any public questions or comments about the motion? Okay, then we're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Very good. The motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Carter. And thanks again, Doug, for your interest. Okay, also under agenda item number 7, I'd like to discuss the board continuation of a supervisor on the Westchester Area Council of Government. So Robin, I believe you've had a successful year. You've been on the COG as the liaison from West Goshen, but also as the chair, I believe, for 21. So what's the update in terms of 22? Are you still the chair, or what's the plan?
I basically left for Westchester because at the end of the year, and I believe that there are some other individuals from different communities who are also interested. One being Carol. I think she's coming back on, so I don't know what she's doing. But I was planning on reaching out to her because she reached out to me to get started last year.
Okay.
So it would not be my first priority to do so unless we have a fair amount of detailed information that can be utilized for some of the sustainability we've been talking about. I know we're still working with some of the energy issues, but I just don't feel as though I have the capacity at this point. But if there's somebody else there who wants to step in, maybe from West Goshen or Westtown, that would be fine with me. And if not, then I can take another look at it.
Okay, so in terms of, would you still like to continue as the West Goshen representative to the COG, or is it just the chairmanship that you're not interested in, or would you like another board member to volunteer?
Well, they asked me if I would do it, so that's why I stepped up. But I easily can go back to it, because I really would like to have more information from Carol in terms of what she's focused on, and I also want to work out with Will Williams again to see where we're going to move forward, if we're going to continue to move forward. That would be something very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, we can have Will come back to a regular meeting of the township, because I've continued to talk with him about reaffirming our position on procuring renewable energy for the township electricity needs. There's probably a slight adjustment as to how we're going to approach that in terms of before we kind of come up with a set price that we would entertain. We need to probably be more flexible relative to what is the competitive price for a fossil fuel generated supply. So I think, in the next couple months or two, we can have Will Williams come back and present an update as to how they continue to move forward with it. So I think we can engage that piece separately from the COG in terms of a specific position for West Goshen. So again, so for tonight, would you want to continue as the board representative to the COG for West Goshen, or would you suggest we ask other board members to consider volunteering?
Yeah, I'd like to be involved in what's going on further.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very important for us to keep moving forward with that.
Okay, so then, with the agreement of the other board members, Robin would continue as the liaison or representative to the Westchester Area Council of Governments for 2022. Great. Yep.
Great.
Ashley, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Chris, I don't think we need a motion on that, or do we? Because we didn't cover it under the...
A motion can't hurt.
Okay, so I will make the motion for Robin to continue as the West Goshen Township representative to the Westchester Area Council of Governments for 2022.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any other board discussion or comments? Are there any public comments or questions? Very good. Ready to take a vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for continuing to serve, Robin. And then, I believe that was it for agenda item number 7. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8. So this is board approval of our depositories for financial funds in 2022. And those are TD Bank, DMB First, S&T Bank, Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trusts, known as PLGIT, and Santander Bank. Is there a motion to approve those depositories for 2022?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Rob. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tina. We have a motion and a second to approve those four institutions. Are there any board comments? Any public comments or questions? Very good. We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Very good. Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 9. The board is going to consider recommending to the Board of Auditors, which I believe meets tomorrow evening, that the township's finance director and the township manager's financial bonds be set at $7,500,000 for 2022. Is there any board questions or comments before we consider a motion about the amount of the bond? If I'm correct, Chris, I believe it's the same amount as last year.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
So I presume that's based on the same considerations as we discussed, as the analysis shows, that that's the appropriate amount in terms of available cash in the accounts, the maximum available cash in these accounts throughout the year. And that the auditors, when they meet tomorrow, are at their discretion able to decide differently than what the board recommends this evening.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Are there any public comments or questions? Oh, let's just have a motion first. I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the bonds for the finance director and the township manager at $7,500,000?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Thank you. So, is there any final board comments or questions? Or any public comments or questions on the motion? Ready to take a vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion is approved 5-0. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to announce the Board of Supervisors meetings for 2022. We're going to hold 2 board monthly meetings on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of each month, with both meetings starting at 6 p.m., except as noted. There is no meeting tomorrow on January the 4th because of the reorganization meeting this evening. And on October the 3rd, The meeting for the first meeting in October will be on October the 3rd, which is not the first Tuesday, which is October the 4th. So the Board of Supervisors meeting in October will be October the 3rd and October the 18th.
Make sure that's done.
October 4th was still listed on the website.
Yeah.
Change that.
Thank you, team. But again, we've already announced this and been approved at the last meeting. I believe we've advertised these meetings. There's no further action tonight, it's just an announcement.
No, Mr. Chairman, there's no further action required.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 11 is an announcement of the 2022 Township holiday schedule, on which dates the offices will be closed. There are 12 holidays in total. For 2022, the observed holiday for New Year's Day was actually December 31st, 2021. Monday, January the 17th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Monday, February the 21st, President's Day. Monday, May the 30th, Memorial Day. Monday observed June 20th, Juneteenth Day. Monday, July 4th, Independence Day. Monday, September the 5th, Labor Day. Monday, October the 10th, Columbus Day. Friday, November the 11th, Veterans Day. Thursday, November the 24th, Thanksgiving. Friday, November the 25th, the day after Thanksgiving. And Monday observed December the 26th, Christmas. Again, this is for information, as I believe.
I think in this instance, a motion wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so we need board approval for the holidays, township holidays that I just read out. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tina. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any questions about the holiday schedule for 2022? Are there any public comments or questions? Very good. Ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 12, possible adoption of resolution 1-2022 regarding the fire, ambulance, and police response territories. We get to that. So, Chris, I'm not going to read it all out, other than the key areas of the resolution as it affects the territory and the division of service between the different providers. So the providers are the Fire Department of Goshen and Fire Department of Westchester, and the Ambulance of Goshen and Ambulance of Good Fellowship for ambulance services. The Ambulance of Good Fellowship are the only ambulance service that provides advanced life support services to the township. Also, the Police Department of West Goshen Township provides police protection to the entire township. The contact person between the said organization and the Chester County Department of Emergency Services shall be the respective fire chief, ambulance chief, and police chiefs of those organizations. The following boundaries should be recognized by the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors. The boundaries for fire protection will be from Phoenixville Pike, beginning at the northern boundary of West Goshen Township, southerly to the 322 bypass, then along the PA 202 bypass to South Concord Road, then south along South Concord Road to the southern boundary of West Goshen Township. Goshen Fire Company will respond initially to calls east of this line, and Westchester Fire Department will respond initially to calls west of the line. And both will continue to render assistance to the other as required. The boundaries for ambulance service will be the same as the fire boundaries, with Good Fellowship responding to Westchester Fire Department areas. The boundaries for advanced life support service provided by Good Fellowship will be the entire township of West Goshen. And the boundaries for rescue service will be the same as the fire and ambulance boundaries. And as I already stated, the boundaries for police protection is the entire township of West Goshen. So that's the essence of the resolution. Is there is there a motion to approve resolution 1-2022?
I just have one question. Will we approve it?
I'll second it.
Hang on, she has a question before we make the
Oh, yeah,
motion.
oh, sorry.
I guess, do we need language in there that says cross boundaries will and/or can occur on an as-needed basis? Because I think that's what you do anyway, right? Or no? We talk about Goshen Fire Company will respond initially, and Fire Department will respond initially to calls west of the line, and both will continue to render assistance to the other as required. But I think all the departments noted above will cross boundaries when required.
I
Yeah,
think that would be appropriate to,
Yeah.
that would be appropriate to have.
Since we mentioned it there,
yeah.
we should mention it all.
I agree. I think the one that makes sense, I mean, that one is a fire company specific one.
Exactly.
The balance for ambulance service, again, we should say that first one, Chris, where, cross assistance will be provided as needed. The only thing that is not provided is the advanced life support only comes from Good Fellowship Ambulance Company.
Right, so maybe we should make one statement and say, with the exception of cross boundaries will occur, which will cover all of the departments.
Very good, thank you, Tina. So, Chris, with that amendment, you've got language that would amend the resolution to include the cross support between the different services, with the exception of advanced life.
Yeah.
Okay with it?
Can you send me the language,
Sure.
please?
Okay, with that change to the text, is there a motion to pass the resolution 1-2022?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, John. Are there any other questions from the board?
Well, not a question, but a comment. I think we need to, we've already started the process, and I think we need to continue it, put it on our plate for this year, to explore the relationships we've had with these fire and ambulance companies. Because as time goes on, and as the volunteers just aren't there as like they used to be, the model that we've been existing in this township for decades, it just is not sustainable. So I think we're going to have to take a hard look at that and talk to our fire companies and our ambulance companies about the ways in which we can ensure that this essential service is delivered to the township in an efficient and sustainable manner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, John. When we had a meeting briefly with Good Fellowship Ambulance and talked through some of these issues and concerns, and we mentioned that at our previous meeting, that this is a topic that the board needs to address in 2022. So, duly noted. Are there any other public comments or questions? Very good. We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 1-2022, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion to approve resolution passes 5-0. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is item number 13, possible adoption of Resolution 2-2022, adopting the emergency operations plan for West Goshen Township. Tina, I know you've had some conversation with Ms. Testa. Would you like to describe the issues that you've been raised with her and where it's down?
Yes, I would. I reviewed the EOP plan in depth. A couple of things. I did talk to Andrea Tesla, who, as you know, is our fire marshal. We talked in length about some of the, I'm not going to say concerns as much as issues that I wanted to address. I'll start with the first one on the resolution. It's talking about the emergency services code, and on the actual code itself, it puts in parentheses EOP. So I just think we should include EOP as part of that resolution, 02-2022, if you're in agreement with that.
Where are you suggesting it be
I'm
inserted?
suggesting it where the first whereas after Pennsylvania Emergency Management Services Code,
Okay.
which is basically the title of, it's called Emergency Operations Plan, actually, EOP. Somewhere in there, actually, have to look at the next sentence. Maintain and keep current an emergency operations plan. Right there is where I have it. I just can't read my handwriting.
So you've just put in parentheses EOP to explain what the EOP means?
And that'll actually correspond, Sean, with what is noted in the actual emergency response plan. That's how it's titled there.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I thought should be consistent. And then another thing I discussed with Andrea Andrea, and unfortunately she can't be here tonight, but we did talk. Within the actual EOP plan, it talks about the hazardous mitigation plan, which is basically a county one. I basically reviewed the environmental hazard sections 4.34 and 4.35. I noticed that a lot of the stuff in that hazardous mitigation plan is relative to statistics, not necessarily related to mitigation, is what I thought. So I thought there should be more specific items relative to how the mitigation process is going to take place.
Because you reviewed a county document, county has a mitigation
That's what it is.
So is there a question from the county then?
I talked to, when I talked to Andrea about it, she said that she agreed and she was going to talk to the county about it. So that may incorporate changes potentially in the EOP as a result of that.
So we can always adopt those changes down the road.
Correct, if there are any.
Yeah.
We really need to consult with the county on most of that stuff. The other thing that I noticed in our EOP plan is that we don't have a specific written training program for restoration. Training is occurring, but it doesn't really mention it in the actual EOP that I was concerned about. So as a result of that, we agreed that she can, if it's agreed with the county again, because they use a lot of their guidelines for that we can basically put in an appendix relative to that was her suggestion, saying we follow the guidelines of the county and state and our certifications, because they're obviously required to keep their certifications up, and as a result of that, there's certain requirements. Basically, the requirements for the requirements noted in those regulations and rules, and the frequency is also put there. So I think that would cover us from a generic standpoint, and I think rather getting specific, because the training is going to be changing so much, I just don't like the fact that it's not listed at all. We say we have no training, but we do. So I think
she's going to be in an appendix that will become part of the plan, documenting the specific training that takes place.
Right.
But the plan, the words itself in the plan will
be similar to what I was
with the county.
Right, what I just mentioned, similar words, but of course we have to work on it, we have to run it by legal too at that point. The other items that I noticed in the actual plan itself, there's a lot of colors here, but we resolved a lot. So I have to work out, we're going through a bunch of them. When it talks about the situation and assumptions, they mentioned that the...
this document is not a publicly available document.
Okay. Then I'll talk generic.
Yes.
Generically, I think in some of the sections we should mention environmental, which are some of the areas of concern also. And I think the intent is that the EOP is to cover environmental, but we don't really say that that's what it is specifically. Okay. So without being specific, I guess I also want to include in, again, language relative to pipeline. There's no specific language in here relative to that, as far as hazardous or environmental.
So just on that, you may not be fully aware, we did do the tabletop exercise with the county and Energy Transfer back in September. We received the report in December. And the board will, when we get further on in the agenda, I'm going to ask Chris to put an agenda item for the January 18th meeting to discuss those actions that arose from that relative to the township's communication and messaging that we have actions to follow up on. And also to discuss, what specific outcome there was relative to either having an appendix for a pipeline response, or where the county is, because the county has, I believe, in November, there was a ruling at the state level that Energy Transfer needed to provide a lot more information to the county about their response capabilities. So I think there's a moving situation here that we can piggyback onto and make sure that we get the right information, both into a specific appendix for us, that details the West Goshen situation with this pipeline, while being consistent with whatever the county level is, and also following up on the Chris, heads up, we need to have a public discussion on that on the regular meeting on January 8th.
You could send me the follow-up from the pipeline
Absolutely.
tabletop, so I can take a look at that, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And there was another agreements with adjacent municipalities for reciprocal emergency assistance noted. It's very old. It needs updating, and Andrew agreed they're working on that this year.
Okay.
So,
Ms. Testa and I have discussed that.
Okay.
So that'll be coming before the board shortly.
okay, when I asked the question, I didn't know that, so. And then I think some of the other things noted, emergency timeframes and all, we can work on later. I don't think I need to go through any more detail relative to that.
So what I'm hearing is Andy's working on several kind of updates, which may be the form of appendices that we can add to our EOP.
Appendices and also some wording
Some wording
that
changes.
needs to be added or changed
Okay.
in accordance with the county's agreement on that, which
Yeah.
obviously she didn't know because I just talked to her, so she needs time to get with the county and discuss some of the changes.
I mean, as I said, it's also going to be another iteration of it because of the work we were doing with the county on the pipeline.
So it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of tonight, is there an issue with being able to prove it as is or continuation of our EOP and then continue to revisit it as we get some of these updates and questions answered?
Yeah, I would say that we continue to update and review as changes occur, because I think that opportunity to do that.
Okay, but would you support being able to prove it as is tonight?
As is.
Yeah. So we're reauthorizing it as it stands right now, given that there's actions to continue to improve it.
Along with the actions, yes.
Okay. Are there any other board questions or comments about the EOP?
I just want to follow up from what Tina just said. I think it's really important that we do put that also on our plate for this year to develop an EOP, which includes this. What we have in front of us is an all hazards plan. And I think it's important, though, we have an annex to it that would address specifically pipeline emergencies or all hazardous waste or hazardous issues with an emphasis on the pipeline. And the tabletop exercise, which we got back from the county, that report identifies, I believe it's 5 areas of improvement in operational communications and 7 areas of improvement in public information and warning that we can address over the course of this year and include that within this EOP, either within the text as it is or as an annex to address the specific issues.
I agree.
It gives us a pretty good guideline, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm getting my training back that I let lapse as far as my certification, 40-hour OSHA, API, and various other trainings. And I'd also like to work with a company that also has a retired person from the county so that we can incorporate everything that needs to be in the actual plan or annex or supplemental to it.
Yeah, there's also in this resolution a statement that the plan will continue to be reviewed to make certain that it conforms with the requirements of the Chester County Emergency Operations Plan. So as we go through these updates that we've just been talking about, we will need at the end of the day to do a review with the county about the consistency with that plan.
I think it's on a yearly basis, isn't it?
Well, that's his annual basis,
Yeah,
but
okay.
if we're going to change it, when we finish making, not that you haven't finished, but when we've made the substantial updates that we've just talked about, we should do a check-in with the county at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other board questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion to approve resolution number 02-2022? As Tina said, with the requirement that the board will continue to review this document as updates are made by our emergency management coordinator and board members.
I'll make that motion. Sure.
Do we want to amend the verbiage then to say this plan shall be reviewed on an annual basis or as needed to make certain that this plan conforms with the requirements of the Chester County Emergency Operations Plan? To give us that wiggle room so we can make the adjustments throughout the course of the year that we find needed?
That would be fine with me. Chris, is that acceptable language?
I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you. So you okay to make a motion with that insertion?
Yes, I am,
Actually, the motion was amended to include insertion of as needed in terms of the final paragraph on the resolution. Are you okay with that? Thank you. Any other board questions or comments? Any public questions or comments on approval of resolution 02-2022? Okay, we're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Resolution passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 14, possible adoption of Resolution 3-2022, setting the Township Manager's 2022 salary. The resolution states, be it resolved that the Township Manager's 2022 salary shall be $150,000. Is there a motion by a board member to approve Resolution 3-2022?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Tina. Are there any board questions or comments? Any public comments or questions? There are none. We're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next up is our agenda item number 15, discussion and possible appointment of special labor counsel to assist the township and board in the collective bargaining negotiations with the West Goshen Township Police Officers Association. Chris, would you like to just describe the proposed appointment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The current police department collective bargaining agreement will expire at the end of 2022, so at some point this year we will be entering those negotiations. I reached out to Scott Blissman, who is an attorney with Eckerd Siemens in Philadelphia. Full disclosure, I have worked with Mr. Blissman in the past and thought he did a very good job. We did 2 contracts together during my time in Malvern. The rate being proposed is $290 per hour, which is fairly standard for this kind of work. And I know Mr. Blissman has done work for the township in the past on other matters. So this would be just to assist with those negotiations.
Thank you, Chris. I mean, the board has expressed an interest, and we budgeted for this in our 2022 general fund to have assistance to the township and the board in these negotiations with Labor Council. So this is a proposal that is before the board tonight. Is there a board member willing to make a motion to approve this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the actual terms of engagement from the law firm, I guess I have a question for our solicitor under waiver of future conflicts of interest. If they would have a problem of the law firm still representing their client in the event that their clients, there could be somewhat of a conflict of interest. But basically, thus, Eckerd reserves the right to continue to represent existing clients or represent new clients on matters that are not substantially related to the work we perform for you under this engagement, even if the interests of other firm clients are directly adverse to you in those other matters. If our solicitor would have a problem with that. And it's under the conflicts of interest section. Is my only question I would have. If our solicitors are fine with it, then that's pretty much.
I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at now.
Well, Tina's concern is that the terms and conditions of the proposal say that if, for example, this firm is counsel for someone who is in opposition to the township and its board, that they can continue to represent that client even though they're representing us on the police negotiation, and that conflict of them representing someone who's opposing the township on a different matter could be a conflict with the fact that they're representing us in this negotiation. So they reserve the right to be able to do that.
Right, even though it's an adverse topic to West Goshen Township.
I don't know if that's a standard clause or not, because you aware of it?
I believe it's a standard clause. I've never worked with this firm outside of doing labor-related negotiations. I've never, in 5.5 years in Malvern, we never ran into a conflict with them with any outside party. I believe that this is standard language. I would be happy to run this by Preston and bring it back to the board.
Let's do that. I mean, we have, this is not a matter that needs to be expressly addressed, and there's no specific deadline tonight that we need to meet. So I would suggest that we just get clarification on that.
Mainly because I don't want to get halfway through the negotiations and have to switch a law firm because of the fact that we have a potential conflict of interest. I just want to make sure that we keep the same firm.
It's also good to know whether, what's the name of it, Siemens, whether they do other type of municipal law, whether it's strictly the kind of labor law, you know, because that gives you an idea as to whether, like you say, a conflict could arise or more likely to potentially arise. They only in labor law attorney then.
And I'll run the provision by Ms. Camp, and I can also ask Mr. Blissman if they have any representations in West Goshen that would be coming before the board.
You know what section I'm referring to. Okay.
And I will, we can have this back before the board, try and get this done for the January 18th meeting.
Sounds good.
Our solicitor has no problem with it, we're not going with that.
Tina, is that your only concern about the terms and conditions of engagement?
Yes, the only other comment I would make is that we encrypt the emails, which they allow the capacity to do so also in their terms, that we follow through on encrypting emails.
So like an IT question, I believe, is most of the township email encrypted?
I believe so.
That would be my only other concern. I don't want any private matters getting out intentionally, so make sure that we have it, everything's encrypted in email.
Okay. Are there any other board questions about the engagement of Epic Siemens for this support that the township needs? Okay. Very good, Chris. So we'll bring this back to the next meeting then.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Glad you brought that up. So next on the agenda is item number 16, discussion and possible approval to advertise with the intent to adopt an ordinance to revise the sewer rate at the January 18th, 2022 board meeting, as discussed during the 2022 budget process. So as background on this, we discussed this at our last board meeting of the year. Within the budget for the township in our sewer fund, we had approved a budget that had a $15 per quarter increase for residential sewer rate and a commensurate increase, 14.9%, I believe, for which is what that represents for all of the users, for consistency and fairness, for all folks who tie into the sewer system in the township. And we discussed at the meeting that tonight we would want to propose advertising the modification to our ordinance here to permit this increase in 2022. That's the background. Are there any board questions or comments on specific language that's in the ordinance? I believe this is standard that we've had before, just updated with the changing numbers.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This would be a motion before the board to authorize advertising for consideration.
Okay, so would someone like to make that motion? I will make the motion to advertise this in consideration at the January 18th board meeting.
I'll second it. I'll second.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any other board questions or comments? Are there any public questions or comments about advertising this ordinance for adoption?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Is this to raise the rates for across the board for everybody
Yes.
at the same rate?
But different business customers pay different rates
Oh,
depending on the
business,
establishment.
residential
It's the same percentage increase for all tie-ins.
Okay, so everybody pays the same amount, correct?
Yes. Each resident.
As a resident, so the person who pays $50 in water a month is paying the same amount as somebody paying $200 for their water bill. So they're putting more.
Yes. The sewer rate is independent of the water bill in this township.
I understand that. That we entertain selling the system.
We have gone through a whole process about 4 years ago when we authorized a bond issuance to the township for the upgrade of the system. as to whether there was an interest in the board starting the system, and there was unanimous support, I believe, or the majority supported continue to operate as an authority under public ownership.
Have we entertained any offers outside?
Well, if someone was to make a proposal, that would be, you know, they could approach whether it would be entertained by this board or the authority, I'm not sure.
Okay. The only question, I know me and John talked about this before, is me paying the same amount for somebody with, 3 bathrooms and 5 kids in the house compared to me with, a single dad with 2 kids. I'm paying the same sewer amount for somebody using more water, using the sewer system more than I would.
It's a good question.
It's unbalanced, so.
I mean, there are ways to say, well, should the rates be set by the amount of water consumption that someone uses? But on the other hand, there is a large fixed cost to operating the system. So it exists. The pipe's needed whether you put 1 gallon down it or 5,000 gallons down it, and it needs to be treated to the same standard. So there's an enormous fixed cost piece to it, in addition to the operating variable cost of the actual flow. So it's a good point, and it's something we've talked about, but given where we are with rates in this township versus other municipalities at this point, we haven't pursued that, because in itself is a cost to explore.
A lot of townships are selling their systems. I know East Wayland just entertained selling theirs for $55 million right now, so I don't know what our cost factor is to.
The fact that we have a bond issue.
What we're generating each year, number-wise. I just think it's not fair for individuals to be paying the same amount for using less of the sewer system.
Okay.
That's just.
Duly noted your comment. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, Doug.
Sean, I'd just like to make a comment. The gentleman made a very good point about the usage, and I just wanted to add to your comment that in 2013, the Board of Supervisors had discussions with Aqua about possible sales, and it was decided that since we could still operate the plant, in profit to not sell it, and that we could handle the upgrades and increase rates better than Aqua would. So that's what happened in 2013.
I appreciate the time.
Well, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to advertise for adoption of the ordinance to increase sewer rates at the January 18th meeting. Are there any final comments or questions? Okay, ready to take a vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. And before I go there, I just want to, Chris, just go over the list of things I believe I want to make sure we have included for the January 18th agenda. So the first one would be to include on the agenda board discussion and possible authorization to apply for a Chester County Preservation Partnership grant that you brought to our attention to fund part of the cost of the community park splash pad project that's in our budget for this year. There's a deadline in February that has to be met for a grant application, so we should address it and authorize the work to be done at our January meeting. As previously mentioned, we need to debrief on the after action report, improvement plan of the pipeline into the tabletop exercise, the report that we received in December, and specifically the board needs to consider those actions to improve communications and messaging with the public in a public discussion. And we also had advised the North Hills neighborhood that there will be a board discussion on stormwater management issues in the North Hills neighborhood at the January 18th meeting for their attendance. And also, we need to discuss with the Sustainability Committee potential application for Tree City USA designation and submitting that application. So that should be on the agenda as well.
And I think that application is due in February, Sean.
Yeah.
For sustainability.
So that those 4 items should be, in addition to all our other business and whatever else you need to bring to the board, should be on the agenda. Having said all that, is there any other board comments before I open it up to public comment?
Well, yeah, I still have to make a decision about the appointing a representative to the PSAT's annual conference for the spring.
Okay. We should have.
I don't know if we have to do that tonight. I know they were pushing us to do that tonight, but I don't think it happened. I mean, if we do it the next meeting, on January 18th, we can do it then.
You can do it at the next. You can do it at the next meeting, or you can do it this
Yeah, I mean,
evening.
they don't have for attendance until a few days from now anyway, so I think we can do it at the January regular
I think
meeting.
the registration opens next week.
I think it's January 11th or something like that is when the registration actually
It's
opens,
next
so,
week, right.
you know,
And
if we do it shortly thereafter, we should be fine.
Okay, so that would be something else, Chris, we need to.
Just keep in mind, the rooms do go very quickly, they were saying, within the first week, if you want to stay within the meeting.
So how does that actually work? Is that something that Chris, you would register as a board member, or do we have to do that individually?
I would register the board.
Okay, and as far as rooms go, do y'all get our rooms, or would you book those as well?
I think excuse me if I'm wrong, Chris, on this, but I think if you email your requirements and, attendance to Chris, he can, take care of the whole arrangement, right?
Yep. If I'm remembering correctly.
Okay, is that okay, Ashley? Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And if I can just give for clarification now, for a board member who attends this conference, is the board member covered for their hotel expenses and registration fee? How does that work?
I believe so. I believe all the costs are covered by the municipality.
Okay, but not the spouse, if the spouse decides to come. The board member would have to pay for the spouse individually, separately from the township.
Yes.
Except for the room.
Okay, so we'll address that in terms of our voting representative at the meeting.
Is there an agenda out yet? Do anybody know? Is there an
I think
agenda for
it's
the
a general
conference?
agenda, but not.
Not specific.
I don't think so. I think they're going to struggle again with COVID as well. I think that, that whole having to postpone it for 2 years is going to be looming over them again, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, John. Are there any other board questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, before we move to public comment, there was one office that was not on here, which was the Open Records Officer for the township.
Yeah. So thanks for reminding me, Chris. So historically, the Open Records Officer was with the role called the secretary role, and that role changed to be an assistant township manager many years ago. The Open Records Officer role became part of the township manager responsibilities. But tonight, what I'd like to do is see where the board is relative to continuing that practice, and making sure that we do have an Open Records Officer at the end of the meeting. I know we've had some discussions in the past about whether it should, it should sit with the assistant township manager, which we don't currently have, or a different position. So it's a bit fluid, but I think for tonight we do need the board to take action and decide who the Open Records Officer needs to be. So it's not been appointed yet, which it wasn't, right, Chris?
That's right.
We need to entertain a motion for someone to perform that role.
Well, can I ask a question? I mean, if we decided tonight that the township manager would perform that role, let's say, could we at some later meeting make it a change there, say, well, we'll make it be the assistant township manager, if and when we ever do take one on board?
I believe so.
Sure.
Board's discretion, I think.
But we need to have somebody in place in order to be able to handle the right to know request.
What's your position on that, Chris? I mean, it's hard to...
In my entire career, it has always been the manager.
The manager. Okay.
And then usually the assistant manager would be, the only place, when I worked in Jenkintown as the assistant manager, I was the Open Records Officer, but generally speaking, it's the township manager with the assistant manager being the deputy.
Have you seen situations where there have been a secretary role, meaning, someone who was an Open Records Officer as well as performing other duties, or has that kind of role disappeared over the years? We used to have one here at West Goshen many years ago, and then when the individual retired, the position was changed to become an assistant township manager. But the Open Records Officer role at that point shifted to the township manager, not the new assistant township manager.
It can be whoever the board deems most appropriate.
And are you okay with that role?
I'm fine. I've performed that role in multiple municipalities.
Okay.
I don't know what, we don't know if we have a feel for it, or if you have a feel for it, so, but, you know, it can be time consuming.
Well aware.
You know, depending on the issues that are facing the township, you get a lot of open records requests, and, you know, we have a lot of strategic initiatives, shall I say, for the board that's interested in moving forward, so we don't want it to get too bogged down in providing responses to these open record requests if it consumes a lot of the time. So if right now it feels manageable, then that's good enough for me. But
I think for right now, to have someone in place, it would be appropriate, and then we can, then the board can reevaluate it accordingly once we fill some of the open positions that are available.
okay, very good. Any other board questions on open records office? Okay, then I'll make a motion to appoint Chris as the Township Manager to be the open records officer for 2022.
And I'll second it.
Any public comments on that particular motion? Okay, ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Are there any public comments tonight? Anything we have not covered on the agenda that you wish to raise? Doug?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to welcome Tina to the board. Tina, you're an old neighbor, Falcon Lane, and my mom sends her regards.
Thank you very much.
And also, congratulations, John, on your continued service. And welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
You'll do great. Also, a question for Rick Craig. Rick, in your opinion, do you think there is room in our ordinances to strengthen the tree replacement compared to what we have?
I think that's debatable. We have a pretty strong ordinance the way it is. To make it any stronger could result in some difficulties in enforcement, similar to those experienced by West Whiteland, which has a tree-for-tree replacement. They've had cases where it's impossible to fit that many trees on a site. So I think our ordinance is pretty effective, and I think in general I don't see any need to tweak it, but that's up to the board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate your kind comments. Are there any other public comments tonight? Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Tina. Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Chris, are we meeting virtually on Wednesday? Is that the idea?
Yeah, we just stop.
Happy New Year.
John, please go show us.